This is a little bit of a continuation from the last few days. Just before sitting down here, Venerable Gangso, Gangso and I were talking, and she commented that she had stayed in a Zen monastery, but they don't keep Vinaya, and how different the feeling is here. Yeah, and so I think that's something that when you come into a monastic situation where people are keeping the Vinaya, you feel it. The atmosphere is very, very different. Yeah, and especially if you have a group of people who are keeping celibacy, it's different than probably in the Zen monastery. They had families and partners and all. Totally different kind of dynamic, when it's a celibate community. And also, as a community, we don't make special friends. We try and be friends with everybody in the community. So within a monastic community, it's really discouraged to have a special friend who's your best friend who you always hang out with. Yeah, but to really try and talk and be friendly with everybody. And sometimes if we see two people becoming too close, even one is counseling the other or whatever, we'll say something just because it's better that, we have an open mind and relate to everybody and don't break down into factions of, our little group with the people we like the best, but, relate to everybody in the monastery. So there were a few other points that I wanted to talk about. They come in no particular order, so this is likely to be a hodgepodge talk. Okay, but one thing, I know some people here are establishing communities or in the process of it, and there's many different ways to be a community. Yeah, there's monasteries where you really live together and you function as a community. You make decisions together. People check with each other before they go out to do something else. You don't just say, okay, I'm going away for a few weeks and leave. But, you really function as a community like that. So that's one type of community. There's another one where maybe it's more meditative. And so people are your schedule's going to be different to reflect the fact that people are doing more meditation. The way you build your buildings will be different too, because you're likely to have separate quarters for people, whereas in a training monastery like this one, you want people together, without their own kitchens and without their own bathrooms. There may be a monastery that's more involved in socially engaged work. So again, even the physical structure is going to be different. The schedule is going to be different. There may be monastic communities that are on the same land with a Dharma center. So they're going to have their own challenges, how to remain as a monastic community when you're right next to a lay community that has certain challenges. So there's many different ways to do it, and how the schedule will be, how the physical layout of the place will be. All of that changes. Okay, that's one thing. I told you my hodgepodge talk. Then another thing is when you're here, something that is very important when you're living in a community of any kind is don't compare yourself to the other people in the community. Okay, if you start comparing yourself to other people, you will dig yourself into a hole and you will be miserable. Because sometimes, and I say this because our culture encourages us to compare ourselves with others and then compete. Yeah. And so we want to be at the front of the line. And, but, oh, gee, there's these other bhikshunis who took ordination before me, and I have to stand beside them. And, I should be in the front. Or, that happens. Or, gee, look at all these other people. They sit in meditative position perfectly still. I'm the only one who's so squirmy. They're so much better than me. Ugh, it's not fair. Or, oh, I've studied much more than all these other nuns. You know, I've done this and this and this. I know that and that and that. I'm much better than them. Okay? So you can go on and on and on, you know, comparing yourself to other people, and it just either grows jealousy or grows arrogance, neither of which are very conducive for practicing the path. So it's much better, you know, again, mind our own training and do what we can, recognizing that we are all unique individuals. And so something that comes easy for us will be difficult for someone else. Something that is difficult for us will be easy for someone else. And all of that is completely okay. You know, it's like we don't have to compete who's going to be, you know, get to the path of seeing and become an Arya first. You know, because anyway, when you're an Arya, you're beyond competing with everybody. You don't care. Okay. Yeah. So the purpose is actually all of us to progress along the path and to help each other do that. And so that when we see other people doing well, we really rejoice in that. So when I'll tell you, true confession time. Yeah, so I was ordained kind of among the first batch of Westerners who got ordained. There were some people who were ordained before me. And, you know, we sit in ordination order, which is basically so that you know where to sit. Yeah, it's basically for that. And you just do it in terms of how long you've been ordained. It doesn't indicate how realized you are or anything like that. It's just so you know where to sit in an ordinary thing, in a practical way. But I would sit in my place and I would look up the line, and it's like, oh, that nun, I don't like her. Yeah, she's kind of arrogant. The next one, too angry. The next one, she's always hanging around the teachers wanting attention, you know. The next one, she has some fault too. Then I'd look down the line to the juniors. This one is so sloppy. Yeah. That one, you know, she doesn't know the precepts. The one next to her, yeah, she's always arrives late at everything. And so whichever direction I looked, you know, my opinion factory was operating, and I had negative opinions of absolutely everybody. And so the conclusion of all of that was that I must be the best monastic. You see, because if everybody else has all these problems, then clearly, you know, I am the one who is superior. And I even remember one time doing retreat and sitting in my little hut, you know, counting my mantra. And the thought came, you know, oh, my teacher has clairvoyant powers. I bet he sees right now what a good nun I am, what a good retreat I'm doing. And then as soon as I thought that, I realized, well, that's a clear indication of how far away from the path I am. You know, you think that, and you know, you're out of sight, nowhere near the path. And I just cracked up laughing in the middle of my session. Yeah. But these are the kind of things that come, you know, where we're comparing and contrasting and this kind of stuff. And like I said, it just digs us in a hole and makes us miserable. So whenever you find yourself doing that, just press the stop button. Yeah. And what you practice instead, and this is what I taught myself to do, is to look up the line and find something good about each person. Yeah. So the person who actually I criticized because of some reason, the reason I criticized her was because she was fluent in Tibetan and I didn't know Tibetan and I was jealous. But I didn't want to acknowledge that, so I found some other fault to criticize her with. So my practice was being able to look and say, wow, that's wonderful. She knows Tibetan fluently, the scriptural Tibetan, the colloquial Tibetan. That's fantastic. I rejoice. Yeah. And then looking down the line and seeing the talents of each person. So really training the mind to look at everybody and point out in our own mind at least one good quality that somebody has. And again, to train the mind to think it's good that there are other people who are better than me. And it's good that there are people who are senior to me. And it's good that there are people who know more than me. Because if I was the best, we would be in big trouble. Okay? Let alone the fact that we wouldn't have a building, because I don't know how to do any construction. But even within the Dharma, if I was the best, then there would be a lot of things we couldn't learn because I don't know them. Yeah, a lot of things we couldn't do because I don't know them. So it's really good that there are people who know more than us who we can learn from. Yeah, and we don't have to compete with those people over who knows more and who's done more study or whatever. We just appreciate each other and see each other's qualities. And then also on the practical level here, we can see in the community, people have very, very different talents and abilities. And I'm really glad, yeah, because again, if I were the most skilled in these things, we would not have hot water in Ananda right now. We would not have heat downstairs right now. We would not have, what? Yeah. You hit it. We wouldn't have lunch. What? Yeah, we would have carrot cake, yeah. Carrot cake and apple cobbler on every other day. Okay. Neither of which have I made in many, many years. So I'm a little rusty. Yeah. So it's really wonderful to be able to live in a community where there's people who have so many different talents and abilities. Yeah. Again, if I were the best, we wouldn't have these tables. Yeah. Venerable Yeshe built all of these tables. I can barely get a nail in a piece of wood with a hammer without hitting my thumb, So it's really good that we are quite diverse, and then learn to rejoice what each other can do, because we all contribute to the common purpose and the common goal that we're all working towards. Okay. So I think maybe I'll close here. I have so many more little points, but they will come up, I'm sure, here and there. Okay.